Hello, thank you for coming to this meeting. Making videos on the internet is a lot like riding a bicycle, because if you don't do it for like, I don't know, 7 months, then when you try and do it again, you're just gonna look like a tit. I've tried to make this 3 times, and when you see this version that actually did go up, you'll be like, 3 times? And this was the best one? I decided to go lo-fi. I don't know if you can tell. So what it is that I've done is that I've written a novel, and somebody actually wants to publish that novel and will be publishing that novel in July of 2021. If you're wondering why I'm not like crying and screaming and jumping up and down right now, it's because book deals are a long and drawn out process with lots of little steps where you're like, ooh, should I celebrate now? No, I'll save it and I'll celebrate later. And then later you're like, oh no, that was the moment to celebrate. So I guess I'll just feel nothing forever. But just to clarify, I don't actually feel nothing. I just sound like I feel nothing. Having a novel published has been my dream since I was like 5 years old. So rest assured, there were many tears shed. They're just not for your consumption, because I think that announcing things on the internet is really weird, because you have to put on this kind of like practiced act of like, what should a person who's excited about something look like? Today, this is what a person who's excited about something looks like. Stress acne and a secondhand AC/DC t-shirt that I got just to annoy my boyfriend because he hates AC/DC. Anyway, my book is called Reputation. It is about Georgiana Ellers, a young woman who moves to a new town to live with her aunt and uncle, who's hideously bored and looking for the kind of excitement and adventure that she reads about in her books, and then she finds it. The other way that I've been pitching this book, which gets mixed reactions from people, is what would have happened if Lizzie Bennet had met Mr. Darcy while she was stoned? So I'll just let you sit with that for a minute. Just let that sink in. It's also been pitched as like Pride and Prejudice meets Mean Girls, or Pride and Prejudice meets Gossip Girl, because a lot of it is also about status and friendship, and about those like really intense whirlwind friendships that almost feel like romance. Sometimes feel a lot like romance. I keep looking down because I've got my manuscript literally in front of me, because I asked people on Instagram to send me questions about the book, and then I wrote down all the questions on the last page of this manuscript. Let's go. I want to get this question out of the way first because I think it's key. Were you approached by a publisher to write this book? This may come as a surprise to you, but the editors of The World are not sitting around thinking, what would happen if Lizzie Bennet had met Mr. Darcy while stoned? So no, I was not approached to write this book. This is a book that I wrote because I just wanted to write it. It just felt like it would be fun, and it was. I wrote it with no idea if it would ever go anywhere. Like, obviously you dream that maybe it will, but at the time the agent I had was just for like my non-fiction stuff, so I really wasn't like placed or set up to pitch this new fiction thing. I had to start from scratch with the process that everybody goes through when they are trying to sell a novel. Somebody else asked how long the process took. So I started writing in April of 2019. I wrote till the end of the summer. I did some basic revisions, probably 3 drafts. Then I queried agents, which is the part of the process where you send a cover letter and a chunk of your writing to agents and say, please God, like this, please represent me. Through that, I got my agent Chloe Seeger and Madeline Milburn, and then we did some revisions of the manuscript together, and then I went out on submission towards the end of 2019. I got my deal in like March of this year, and my book's not coming out until next July. I'm still doing revisions right now, which is like the earliest stage of editing when you have an editor. But actually only 2 and a bit years from like the idea coming to me to the novel being published is a really condensed timeline. So it feels like a long time, but it's not a long time. Somebody asked if it was fun. I had so much fun writing this, and I don't think I would have bothered continuing if I wasn't having fun. Like, I looked forward to writing it. I wanted to be immersed back in the world. Maybe this comes from my, youthful naivety. I don't know if I can say that I have youthful naivety when I'm nearly 30. But I just don't understand why anyone would write a book if they weren't enjoying it. I think it has to be fun at least most of the time. Like, sometimes it's going to be tricky, but if it's a slog from start to finish, then like, why are you writing it? Go do something else that's more fun. Somebody asked how many revisions I did before querying. As I said, it was only like 3 drafts. I wouldn't recommend that, and I also wouldn't recommend like not showing your writing to anybody like it's some big secret. This year has really taught me the importance and the value of like writing community and beta readers, people who you can swap work with. I think people often see writing as this like super secret thing that you should do in private and not tell anybody about. Personally, I think that's nonsense. I think you're only going to benefit from having other people's eyes on your work. So yeah, I didn't do tons of revisions. I didn't have anyone read it. Don't do what I do. Somebody asked me something which gave me a good chuckle. They said, how were you able to make writing a sustainable career option? I still have a full-time job. I'm a video producer. I make social media videos. That is my job. I think when I say that, sometimes people think I mean these YouTube videos. These YouTube videos, very much not my job. So yeah, I work full time and I squeeze writing in around my job. I'm lucky that I have quite a flexible job, so I was able to take a little bit of time off last year to focus on writing and the launch of my other book, my non-fiction book. But yeah, writing is not my career and it probably never will be. It's actually very, very difficult to make a sustainable wage writing books. Only a very lucky few manage to do that, and a lot of people who are like full-time authors also supplement their income in some way. So yes, I'm always endlessly thrilled that people think I'm just like some kind of entrepreneurial genius who has managed to ditch the world of full-time work while seemingly doing almost nothing. But alas, it's not true. Somebody asked if my book is a romance. There is a romance in it, but it's not entirely centered around the romance. Somebody asked if they were going to be allowed to touch because it's Regency, and like a lot of the time in Regency things you just get like a kinky little like brush of the hands while helping someone into the carriage. Graphic eye contact. I would just like to reassure you that they touch. It is not a bodice ripper. No bodices were ripped in the making of this book. But listen, I'm way too horny a person to write a romance in which there's no touching. The number one question that I got about this book, I closed the folder there, like you can tell I'm getting really serious now, was, is it gay? So I'm bisexual. I don't know if I've ever actually said this on this channel before. I've said it in other places, but yeah, surprise. So understandably, people have been wondering if this book is gonna be queer. And I just wanna say now, to make it clear so that nobody feels tricked into buying it, that the main romance in this book is not queer. It was written when I hadn't come out yet. I was still thinking a lot of thoughts. I would argue that the main character is not entirely heterosexual for reasons you will discover. But yeah, it's not a queer romance book. There are plenty of queer characters, just so we're all on the same page and someone doesn't open the book and go, Harold, they're heterosexuals. My writing since I came out is a whole other story. Somebody asked if there will be a sequel. No, there will not be a sequel. How did you choose the title / is it a Taylor Swift reference? Authors don't actually choose book titles. I don't think most people know that. Basically, it's the author's job to write the book and it's the publisher's job to market the book, which includes everything like title and cover. So as the author, you do get a certain amount of say in what's chosen, but you're definitely not the one calling the shots. I was very lucky with this book. I love this title. This was a title that I actually put on a like long list of words and phrases to potentially use for a title. And it took us a little while to find something that like me and my agent and my editors liked. But in the end, we got there. And yes, it is a Taylor Swift reference, but mostly it's just a reference to like the book and what happens in it. Handy as it's the title. Have you seen any covers yet? No, I haven't. It's all a mystery. If you go on Amazon right now, you'll see what's being used as a holding cover. I'll put the link in the description. I recommend taking a peek. And then just think about the fact that I didn't know that that was going to be the holding cover. Like, I think it's great and also hilarious, but I didn't know. Next question was, is it inspired by any of Jane Austen's works in particular? I would describe this as my Pride and Prejudice book. It's not like a retelling or a reimagining, but it definitely has certain Pride and Prejudice vibes about it. The last question that I got a lot of variations on was, should I pre-order it now? Here's the deal. You can pre-order it now from Amazon. The link is in the description, as I said before. If you are an Amazon person, then that is where you can pre-order it. If you don't like to buy from Amazon, there will be plenty of other places to pre-order it from, and when the time comes, I will shout about it constantly. You will not be able to avoid me talking about pre-orders, because as you've probably heard many times before, pre-orders are incredibly important for how a book does. So my answer is that I would love you to pre-order it, like please pre-order it at some point, but you don't have to pre-order it right now. Another helpful thing that you can do is that if you are a Goodreads user, you can add it to your to-read shelf. So I will leave the Goodreads link in the description too. A lot of people have asked, is there going to be an audiobook and can I pre-order this in the US or outside the UK? There is going to be an audiobook, as it turns out, because when people ask me, I ask my editor. Probably something I should have asked about before, but you know, head empty, no thoughts. In terms of how accessible it's going to be outside of the UK, I don't know yet, because right now I have a UK deal, but I will update you if that changes. I don't know why I said that so seriously, like I'm a doctor. So that's it for now. I made a book, and I've gone round and round on this, you know, not always been 100% certain, but I actually think it's good. Sorry that I disappeared for 6 months. I'll see you in another 6 months.